We've been talking a lot about the CIA and the FBI because, well, they're kind of everywhere. They're spying on us every which way you turn, and they kind of are just becoming a problem. The people that they should be investigating, they're not. The people that they are investigating, maybe they shouldn't be. And around we go. So we've got two stories. One weird thing happened yesterday. I don't know that there's anything consequential here. Could have just been a weird thing. But anytime you have a gunman who is shot and killed at CIA headquarters, you gotta just take a closer look at that, right? Is it Jason Bourne here? Is James Bond back in business? Who's got eyes on Pierce Brosnan? All right, so let's take a quick look at this story because it's kind of interesting. Over at the CIA headquarters yesterday, an armed suspect dies after being shot outside. An armed suspect was there at CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia yesterday. NBC News reported that the person was stopped at the entrance gate by armed guards after trying to enter the facility without permission. FBI confirmed in an initial statement on Twitter on Monday evening that a person was wounded. The incident is currently under investigation. FBI is reviewing an agent-involved shooting that occurred at approximately 6 p.m. on Monday. The tweet said, individual involved in a security incident outside CIA agency HQ in McLean, Virginia, emerged from his vehicle with a weapon, was engaged by law enforcement officers. The subject was wounded, has been transported to a hospital for medical attention. The FBI takes all shooting incidents involving our agents and task members seriously. Review process is underway. In an updated statement on Tuesday, FBI confirmed that the man died from his injuries after being transported to the hospital. They're set to review the shooting incident. Earlier in the statement, the CIA confirmed the agency was responding. They say, in coordination with our local law enforcement partners, we are addressing security situation just outside the secure perimeter of CIA headquarters by our main gate. Our compound remains secured. Our security protective officers working the incident are the only agency personnel directly involved. According to local media, the situation led to road closures in the area. Fairfax County Police were helping to direct traffic around it. So, interesting. Could have just been a one-off, kind of a crazy person, but CIA headquarters. Tom Cruise rappelled down in there and hacked the system. Pretty impressive guy. All right, so what else is happening with the CIA and the FBI? Well, of course, they're spying on you and me and everybody that they want to because there are no repercussions for it. Well, Jim Jordan and Andy Biggs are two House representatives who are asking some pretty hard questions about it. Want to go through this. We're going to be talking about the Fisa Court, the Foreign Intelligence Court, and the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. I've got two definitions for you. We're going to go through them. Let me frame this out here quickly. We're going to go to Fox News. It says that Jordan and Biggs demand answers from the FBI on widespread FISA violations after declassified Fisa Court opinion. FISC stands for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. The FISA stands for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. So we're talking about FISA is the entire act. The court, Fisa Court, deals with the cases. So House Representatives Jim Jordan, Andy Biggs, they're demanding answers from FBI Director Christopher Wray, which is going to be a long wait because he doesn't have many of them, after a newly declassified opinion from the FISA Court revealed that there were widespread FISA violations. So, all right, what are we talking about? The FISA Court, or the FISA Act, is foreign intelligence. I have a slide on this here. Republicans throughout the Trump administration were vocal about abuses of FISA after the FBI obtained the FISA warrant against Trump campaign aide Carter Page. But last week, Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the DNI, declassified an opinion from the FISA court with oversight from the FISA system, which is what we're talking about now. All right, so the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, what is it? The court was established by Congress in 1978. The court entertains applications made by United States government for approval of electronic surveillance, physical search, and certain other forms of investigative actions for foreign intelligence purposes. So what happens here? The government in charge goes to this special court called the Fisa Court and says, hey, we've got these people over in Iran that we want to spy on. They've got some information that's critical to national security. Okay, so they go to the Fisa Court and they say, we need to do this. Here's why. It's a special court that's set up to authorize those foreign surveillance activities. Now, the problem here is when that person in Iran is communicating with somebody in the United States. They pick up the phone, they call into the United States or email or whatever, and the FISA court now has granted permission to spy on the person who is the foreign individual, the foreign asset, the person in Iran. But what about the person here in the United States who happens to be a U.S. citizen? Do they have the ability to go and listen to their conversations? Because they're a citizen here in the States. They have certain constitutional rights against government intrusion, and we want to maintain that. We want to protect that. Now, the people who are not here, who are in Iran, they don't have those same protections. So how do we balance these things out? Well, one of the things that they do is called masking, so that they sort of scrub out the identities of the people who are on the U.S. side, which is what's supposed to have happened with many of the Trump administration officials, including General Michael Flynn. Problem is that a lot of those individuals were unmasked by the Obama administration, which led to the whole Carter page and this whole thing that's been going on with the FISA problem for a long period of time. So now there was a newly declassified memo. The Fisa Court came out, declassified this memorandum, and they're saying, oh yeah, you know those concerns that you had about the FBI using the Fisa Court to not only spy on foreign assets, but also American assets? Remember when they were sort of looking at American people as well in violation of what some of the laws and rules say? There was a lot of that going on, actually. And so here we're just going to let you know about it, that this may have been a little bit more prevalent than otherwise suspected. And now Congress, of course, is not happy about this. Now, quick overview on the FISA Court and the Surveillance Act. It says here it's a federal court established and authorized under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978 to oversee requests for surveillance and warrants against foreign spies inside the United States by federal law enforcement intelligence agencies. Such requests are often made by the NSA, the FBI. Congress created the FISA and its court as a result of recommendations by the Senate's Church Committee. From 1978 until 2009, the sixth floor of the DOJ building. It's been moved over to the courthouse in Washington. In 2013, a top secret order issued by the court, which was later leaked to the media from documents culled by Edward Snowden, required a subsidiary of Verizon to provide daily ongoing feed of all call detail records, including those for domestic calls to the NSA. So we've got all these alphabet agencies working with each other, passing the buck around. Edward Snowden broke the story, and now there's investigations going on. Well, what was this FISA court doing? We know that they were supposed to be authorizing surveillance of foreign spies, but what about American citizens? Well, Snowden told us that they were doing that all over the place. And now a new opinion came out from the FISA court saying, this was happening very often. So here is the letter from the Congress of the United States, the Committee on the Judiciary, from the House of Representatives. This is going over to Director Wray. This was authored by Reps Jim Jordan and Andy Biggs. Dear Director Wray, this letter was drafted today and sent over their direction. According to a recently released opinion from the FISA court, the FBI has been seriously and systemically abusing its warrantless electronic surveillance authority. April 26, 2021, the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, declassified a 67-page FISA court memo opinion and order from 2020 detailing the FBI's apparent widespread violations of privacy rules in conducting surveillance under Section 702 of the FISA Act. We write to request information about the FBI's illegal spying activities. Now, I know many people just say that this stuff, oh, well, whatever. Right? Everybody's spying on you. Phone has cameras all over the place. Every single app says, hey, we want permission to access your DNA. And you say, yeah, no problem. Everybody else has it, so who cares? This is a pretty important part of our justice system. It's restraining the federal government. You may be okay with Facebook, and Google having stuff all over your house, but when the government does it, and the government has the power to incarcerate you and literally rob you of your liberties, this is a problem. And we got to make sure that we hold the line on this thing, okay? Government has to abide by the Fourth Amendment and the rest of the Constitution, lest we all suffer the consequences. Section 702 authorizes the Attorney General and the DNI to jointly authorize warrantless surveillance of non-U.S. persons reasonably believed to be located outside the United States, subject to limitations. That's what 702 is for. So, for example, 702 says that the adoption of, quote, targeting procedures to ensure that 702 acquired information is limited to non-U.S. people to prevent intentional acquisition of U.S. domestic communications. So what they're saying is Section 702 provides a mechanism whereby people who get sort of swept up in these conversation dragnets where they're gobbling up all this information from foreign surveillance communications. If they identify U.S. citizens, then there are certain rules and provisions and procedures in place to limit the identification of those individuals so that we can protect the U.S. citizens from warrantless access to their information. All right, because this is coming from the Fisa Court, not from a domestic court. This is a specific jurisdiction for these types of issues. In its November 2020 opinion, the Fisa Court reported the FBI violated the querying standard following a Department of Justice audit about their compliance. The court determined the FBI had misused its surveillance powers, finding that the FBI's failure to properly apply its querying standard when searching for acquired information was more pervasive than previously believed. The Fisa Court noted that the FBI official responsible for limited background investigations conducted over 120 queries of 702 acquired data using names and other identifiers of individuals who had requested to participate in the FBI's Citizens Academy, a community outreach program. FBI also queried names and identifiers of individuals who needed access to an individual field office for office repairs and others who sought to report tips. Other violations involved FBI personnel who failed to opt out of querying raw FISA acquired information for reasons that did not meet its intent, such as the FBI analysts who conducted more than 100 queries for analytic paper. So you've got this computer system that has just massive amounts of data and information that you have very, very, strict. I think we saw this in some of the Edward Snowden movie, right? There was the Hollywood remake or interpretation of the Snowden debacle, and kind of goes and he says, well, what do you need? I got this terminal here that I have access to the backbone of the internet, to every single bit of data that's been transferred since the beginning of time. It's all right here. What do you need? Give me a name and I can tell you everything about the person. So, this happens a lot. We see this with misdemeanor cases where police officers who don't have access to certain evidence go and get access to certain evidence. Why? Well, because they're in a position of power and there's nobody to oversee them. FBI was doing the same thing. There's this database. There's supposed to be protocols and rules in order to access that information because it's protected, because it's constitutionally sacred information. We've deemed it to be such. FBI just kind of, go look around. Hey, I wonder what Jenny's doing today. Type Jenny. Okay, there's Jenny. New boyfriend's a loser, right? It's that type of stuff that human beings do. FBI's not immune to it. We've got the Fisa Court further documented the government has reported numerous incidents regarding searches of FISA information without first obtaining court permission. So just doing it without even going to the court. The Fisa Court noted the discovery of 40 queries in which the FBI accessed information for investigations involving healthcare fraud, transnational organized crime, violent gangs, domestic terrorism, involving racially motivated violent extremists, as well as investigations related to public corruption and bribery, all of which were unrelated to foreign surveillance. FBI, domestic law enforcement agency, looking up for FISA information to use it in their domestic law enforcement sourcing, even though they don't have permission to do so from any court. They're going through the FISA courts because nobody's watching them. These concerns are particularly disturbing in light of prior FBI misconduct thoroughly detailed by the DOJ, suggesting a pattern of abuses and deficiencies in the FBI's FISA process. In December 2019, an OIG, Office of Inspector General, issued a report finding the FBI had abused its FISA process to illegally surveil American citizens associated with President Trump's campaign. Footnote 14 sends this over to the Department of Attorney General's Crossfire Hurricane investigation. Remember that phrase being bandied about? We know that the FBI has been botching this stuff for a long period of time. The recently released Fisa Court opinion raises more questions. Jim Jordan and Andy Biggs, they want to know, please explain why almost a year after the OIG report about FISA abuses, the Fisa Court found the FBI to still be abusing its warrantless surveillance authority. Why? Please provide a detailed accounting of every instance since December 2019 in which the FBI has queried, accessed, otherwise used information obtained pursuant to Section 702 purposes unrelated to national security. And number 3, please explain what actions you have taken in the wake of Fisa Court's November 2020 memo in order to prevent the FBI from using its authority to investigate U.S. citizens, signed off on by those two gentlemen. We'll see what Director Wray comes back with, the FBI guy. We'll see if he has anything useful for us. Remember, it took him like 4 months to tell us how Officer Sicknick died. We'll see what we get. Liberty or Death says, I hate the idea of having FISA. The Chief Justice of SCOTUS appoints the judges. No confirmation process is secret. You can be under surveillance and never know. Disgusting process. Liberty is 100% right. What happened to the Trump campaign is proof we should not have a secret court like this. Too easy to abuse. I agree, which is why I'm always screaming about accountability and transparency. We have to see what's going on, because when the government puts this stuff behind closed doors, it is ripe for abuse. They have limitless, unlimited power, total monopoly on power, total ability, unlimited financial resources, so they can just basically do whatever they want. And when you create a situation like that, where there's ample opportunity for you to do whatever you want, there's almost no oversight, you have unlimited power, unlimited resources, you're going to do what you want to do to further your ends. Men and women, we are only human. Ethical, moral guidelines will bend when you're put in a situation like that. And that's exactly what our system has done with the FISA courts. We have Leafy Bug in the house, says, who are the FISA court judges? I don't know them offhand. What's the process for their nomination and appointment? Well, you just heard it from Liberty. Judges are basically appointed by the Chief Justice, and there's no confirmation process. They're there, right? I imagine lifetime tenure like the rest of them. So yeah, kind of a broken process and something that needs to be addressed. We'll see what Christopher Wray has to say about any of that. Great questions, though. All of those, of course, came over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Want to welcome some great new people who joined up. We've got Wokes Bane in the house. We have Shot Gal. We have Guess, and we have TMN5947. Want to welcome you four to the community. Very excited to have you here. If you want to sign up, go to this address down here. Type this into a web browser. watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Big happy shout out to all of you who participated and asked great questions today. Very much appreciate it. Also, a big shout out to some of those of you who are a part of the community. Now, locals.com, we're going to be cranking out some more content over there. My second studio is very close to being done. I've got some nice little finishing touches I got to put on it, but I'm going to start being able to, record a little bit more, produce some stuff on the weekends, after hours, maybe, host a book club, host some meetups. So I'm very excited about it. I got a lot of good ideas from the Locals community creators call that took place yesterday. And so some pretty big ideas. And I'm very thankful to all of you who are helping to make this possible. I mean, literally, if you weren't there supporting us, we would not be able to start working on this. And, when YouTube demonetized us and when we started to look like we may have been on the outs of YouTube, I got a little bit nervous. Like, what are we going to do? Our firm relies on this. We have a bunch of employees here who embody the message, right? We want to help good people who've been charged with crimes, and we want to reform the justice system, which is why I started this channel and started this show. And then YouTube kind of didn't like that. So that made me a little bit nervous, but it warms my heart that there are still people who will say, all right, listen, we are going to build something. We know that maybe conservatism or libertarianism or free speechism or anti-wokeism or whatever, maybe we're going to be out in the wilderness for a little bit, because we all got kind of caught flat-footed during this last exodus, during the last Trump cancellation from all the platforms, during the Parler cancellation. There's a cabal of people trying to control the narrative that takes place on the internet. That's a scary thing. But the right and the people who are mostly interested in free thinking, they are responding, and they are creating new platforms and new decentralized solutions, and they are fortifying themselves against further threats. That's happening on Locals and elsewhere. We're just putting our stake in the ground on Locals. And the fact that you're helping us build that is such a cool thing. I think it's going to be a very nice home for us for the foreseeable future. And I'm very excited to get to know all of you better. And I'm just grateful that you're there. So thank you for supporting us at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. If you're not there yet, you can go and get a free copy of my book. It's called Beginning to Winning. You can download that there. Also, download a copy of the slides. You can get a copy of my impeachment party document. You can download a copy of my existence systems template. You can share links. You can meet all the great people over there, and we want to see you there. I am, lastly, before we get out of here, a criminal defense lawyer here at the R&R Law Group. So if you happen to know anybody in the state of Arizona who's been charged with a crime, we would love the opportunity to help. We offer free case evaluations. We can help anybody who is in a difficult situation find safety, clarity, and hope in their cases and in their lives. So whether it's a DUI, domestic violence, drug offense, felony, minor, major, anything in between, we can help. We would be honored and humbled if you trusted us enough to send your referrals our direction. We'll make sure that they leave our office better than they found us. And that, my friends, is it for me. We are going to be back here same time, same place tomorrow, 4 p.m. Arizona time, which is the Pacific time, 5 p.m. Mountain. We have 6 p.m. Central in Texas and 7 p.m. on the East Coast for that one Florida man. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. Have a very lovely evening. Sleep well. Have a nice dinner, because I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.